If United States wants to finish the drug traffic, is just invade Wall Street. You put a lot of tanks and Marines go to Wall Street, and you will never see again drugs on the streets. Pascal, we know that Venezuela has the first oil reserve, the greatest oil reserves of the world. So United States doesn't want to peace, development, and liberty in Venezuela. They want the oil. They want a regime change in Venezuela because they want the Venezuelan oil. The same way they want a regime change in Iran, the same way they wanted a regime change in Iraq, and so.
Hello, everybody. This is Pascal from Neutrality Studies, and today we are going to talk about geopolitics in South America, more specifically about what's going on in and around Brazil, as I have a great guest with me. I'm joined by Navy Commander Robinson Farinazzo Casal, a former commander of the Brazilian Navy, a member of the City Council of Sao Paulo, and the host of the Portuguese YouTube channel Arte da Guerra. Although I just mispronounced that. But Commander Casal, welcome.
Thank you, Pascal. It's a great pleasure to me to speak to you and your audience.
It's fantastic talking to you as well, because you have this YouTube channel in Portuguese, and you're broadcasting very regularly to Portuguese-speaking audience, I suppose, in Portugal, but much more so in Brazil. And you do a lot of geopolitical analysis, and you also, for instance, belong to the people who take a very critical look at Ukraine and the development of the war there. You are yourself a person who's been many years, over 30 years, in the military service. Can you maybe tell us first a little bit about yourself and how you analyze military affairs around the world?
Yes, Pascal, I've worked a lot of time in the Brazilian Marine Corps. I've commanded companies and platoons and worked as a staff officer. Later, I learned to fly planes. I'm a pilot. So I worked in military aeronautical projects in the Brazilian Navy. I worked with jets, helicopters, drones, missiles, radars, sonars, and other types of equipment. So in these activities, I've got a lot of experience, and I bring this experience and this vision of the military to the people. So I put my experience on military affairs, analyzing Ukraine, Gaza, and other military affairs around the world.
What is your impression of the overall media coverage of, let's say, the Ukraine war or what is happening in the Middle East? Are you content also with the media coverage you can find in Portuguese-speaking media?
Well, Pascal, you know, mainstream media has a side. They have a side. This is always a problem. The media, some people in Brazil thinks media worked against the Vietnam War. It's not the case. The media always promoted the vision of the United States in the Vietnam War. They supported the war all the time until the death. When it comes to the Tet offensive, the media saw that the war was over, was lost, and so they began to speak the truth. In this war in Ukraine, I believe it's the same thing. Until 2024, the last year, the media lied a lot. But in this year, in the third quarter of the last year, they began to speak some truths. The Ukraine army is losing a lot of people. I believe it's 700,000 military, Ukrainian military have been killed. It's a lot of people. You see by satellite, you see a lot of graves in many cities of Ukraine. The government has to buy a lot of earth terrain to build cemeteries. They lost a lot of soldiers, and they cannot win this war. But I believe the press is going to extend the lies until they can. So I believe the society, the American society, and the European society is awakening for these lies.
How is the view though from Brazil? Like, I suppose that Brazilian media might have a slightly different take at what's happening in Ukraine, or is Brazilian media following US media, just like European media is following US media in the coverage?
Well, Pascal, there's a difference in Brazil. The media is the same. They are liars. They follow the American media, the European media. But in Brazil, we have some liberty that there is now in Europe. All the Russian media are free in Brazil. All the Russian media. So we say the information by the American media, the European media, but also Russian media, Chinese media, and the East Asia media. So the Brazilian that wants to see what's happening in Ukraine, he can. But a lot of people, in Brazil is a very is a simple cheerleader. Because you know, the soft power of the United States, they made the brain of the people. They made the vision that people has of the world. They believe that United States promote freedom, promote equality, but we know that is not the case. United States has promoted wars around the world and poverty and inequality. So the vision, well, to resume, we have a lot of freedom to access all types of media. But most of the Brazilian society is alienated about what's happening in Ukraine and Gaza.
Which of the two was more impactful for the general public in Brazil? Like the war that's happening in Europe, the Ukraine war, or the slaughter that is going on in Gaza and the developments in the Middle East? Which one had more of a shock effect on Brazilian society?
Well, I believe Gaza. And I'll explain to you because I think this way. You have in Brazil a lot of a great community of Syrian, Lebanese, and Palestinian that immigrate to Brazil. You have cities on Brazil that has a name in Lebanese language. We had a president whose father was born in Lebanon recently,
Who?
10 years ago. The father of the president Michel Temer, the family of President Michel Temer came from Lebanon,
Oh.
and he became president from Brazil. You have governors, you have generals, you have a lot of people. It's a great community in Brazil. They have a great influence in our culture and our commerce, in our vision of work. But they live very well. Jews and Arabs in Brazil, they live very well. We have a commercial center in my city, and you see a shop whose owner is Jew, and besides a shop whose owner is Lebanese or Syrian, and they live very well with no problem. They are at the same restaurant. They talk. They cheer for Corinthians and other Brazilian teams. So I believe because we have these great communities that this war is very impactant for Brazil. But we did not. How can I say to you? We did not have problems here. The two communities are great. They are influencing our culture, in our commerce, but so we feel the war by the manifestation of the descendants and the other people whose fathers came from Middle West. But we did not have great problems here. But I believe the Gaza war had a great impact in the public in Brazil.
And now Brazil is, of course, one of the 5 founding members of the BRICS states. It's the B of BRICS. And what is your take at how happy or how optimistic Brazilians are about now the emergence of BRICS after a long time? BRICS is now really taking off and becoming an international relations phenomenon also, and some people speak about it very well and others less so, especially in the United States. Are a majority of Brazilians happy about being one of the core members of BRICS?
So we have two versions of this affair. A lot of people in Brazil doesn't know BRICS. It's the truth. It's the truth. Some months ago, a journalist talked to me, called me, and asked about the Kazan meeting in Russia. They didn't know what happening. They didn't know. I believe BRICS just have a great impact in the world from 1 year to here. Okay. But as a Brazilian, I have a great hope in my public in Art of War, in Arte da Guerra. We have a great hope that BRICS will bring liberty to Brazil to make commerce and development, because we have a lot of problems here. The United States makes a great pressure in Brazil, so we cannot develop. Our military industry is smashed. We cannot commerce in other countries. Okay, our spatial programs, launches of rockets and satellites. We see sabotage here and a lot of things. Brazil is not a sovereign country. It's not a free country. It's not a country that can decide by his destiny. We see this in Brazil. We see that United States is a big brother that makes a great. They don't want a rival in America. But we see this. So we have BRICS with the greatest hope. But the question is, when you see the Brazilian elite, the top financiers and entrepreneurs, some politics, some military, some Jews, they don't want to lose their privilege. And they know in a changing world, some things have to change. And when you have a change, some people lost just a little, but they lose. It's the truth. They lose some privilege. So I believe there is resistance in Brazil by the elites in the coming of the BRICS. But I believe most of our society that knows what BRIC is, they see is a great hope.
And in a way, Brazil now stands in a strong contrast to Argentina, because the Argentina's president declined to join or turned down the invitation to join BRICS. And Mr. Milei, he is very strongly aligning himself with the United States. He has even had some ideas like getting completely rid of the Argentinian peso and completely dollarizing the economy. What does this do to South America, that it's too largest economies are now on such different strategies or trajectories on how to navigate the international arena?
Well, I believe Milei is a great fear to Brazilian the people that has some conscience, some political conscience, because we know Milei is bringing Argentina to an abyss. We see this way. I believe Milei is the ultra neoliberal. The poors in Argentina are growing. It's true. It's true. People don't have money. Everything in Argentina is expensive. The Brazilian tourists that go to Argentina are worried about all things are expensive in Argentina. I believe Milei is a disaster. He's a monster. And we have the fear that they create a Brazilian Milei in the future. Now we have a president, Lula, Mr. Luiz Inácio Lula, that is one of the creators of the BRICS. Lula is unfavored BRICS. He has some problems with Venezuela. We don't agree about his position in the case of Venezuela. We believe Venezuela has to come to BRICS, but he doesn't think this way. Okay, in the future we'll see the things, but I believe that Argentina is not going in a very good way. We don't want another Milei in Brazil. We don't want. We fight we don't want this type of president. When I talk to you about a president whose family came from Lebanon, Michel Temer, he is the same. He has the same vision of Milei. He's a neoliberal. He wants to cut the rights of the workers, and so. And President Lula has a social vision. He's a man that came from the low class. He was a worker. He has a social vision, but we don't know who is going to succeed him. So the future of the BRICS on Brazil is, in this moment now, a little uncertain.
And the whole of South America, because there's a lot of other players. There's Chile, there's the Uruguay and Paraguay, and then if we go up, we get to Ecuador and Venezuela. You already mentioned. What do you think
Colombia.
that the future of the South American continent in the system is? Because it seems to me that the new leadership of the United States, Donald Trump, seems to hint at wanting to have more control again over South America. Do you feel that as well?
Yes. Pascal, the problem in South America are their elites. They see United States as a Mecca. They see as a heaven. They believe in United States as a good, as a marvelous things, and so. So they don't want to invest in Brazil. Many of the Brazilian elite have houses in Miami, in apartments in New York and California and other states. They don't believe in South America. This is the truth. This is the truth. I believe that the only way that South America grows and have some development will be the day when United States go down. But in this moment, I'm very pessimist about the future of South America. In function of these problems of the elites, they believe in the United States. They believe. Some of the elites don't like South America. They like that. They believe that they are Americans. just living here. They have two passports, and they see that as ideal. It's very sad. It's very sad.
When it comes to Brazil, your former president, Mr. Bolsonaro, where would you put him and people who support him? Are they also part of this elite group that you're talking about, or are they part of the nationalist wing of Brazilian like empowerment of the Brazilian empowerment movement?
Oh, it's very difficult to classify Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro, he was an incidental president. He did not prepare himself to that position. It was a surprise to him. I believe that became president. He was not believing he will be president at some day. So he did not have the shape, the conditions, the core to be a president. So he was lost. I believe he was a lost man in the extreme complex country that is in a world in transformation. I believe he had good intentions. In his mind, he had good intentions. But if you see the people that was around him, he doesn't have conditions. He doesn't have conditions. He doesn't have well. When you see Lula became to power, he worked a lot of time in the PT, the Party of the Workers, and they have a very good board of councillors, board of council, and the staff, the staff of the party that grow around 3 decades. Bolsonaro did not have this structure. He was incidental. He was totally incidental. So I believe that he could not do. I believe the Brazilian society hoped about Bolsonaro for something that he could not give. He could not give. The people that have some conscience, that knows Bolsonaro, knew that he could not make a good governor. We knew he was not going to be a good president.
Um, what we've seen in the US is, or let me put it this way, like Donald Trump was often compared to Bolsonaro, or Bolsonaro to Mr. Trump, because they came out of nowhere and they had radical agendas. And what you've seen in the US is that you went from Mr. Obama to Mr. Trump to Biden, and now back again to Trump. Is there a chance that in Brazil, Mr. Bolsonaro might have a political comeback in about 3 or 4 years when Mr. Lula da Silva's term ends?
I don't know, because Bolsonaro has a lot of problems with justice in Brazil. And you have to see that Brazilian society is very different from American society. They are different. There are a lot of difference. But I believe, and your question is very good, that Bolsonaro and Trump, they are answer to a question. United States, the Democratic Party, and in Brazil, the Workers' Party, they alienated a lot of persons, a lot of people in Brazil. They have their political, their social politics that has a lot of good things, but they did not have a very good communication. In Brazil, the workers, the Party of Workers, they lose the center. I'm a man from the center. I have a center view, more leftist, but at the center leftists. Well, but the workers, they do not communicate with us. they don't see the center. It's a problem. It's a problem, Pascal, because when you abandon the centers, the movements from Trump, Bolsonaro, and others, they capture this person. It's not my case, but there's a lot of people that feel abandoned. They feel, well, they do not talk with us. It's a great problem.
And would
So,
you
and when you just a minute, when you put this problem, when you neglect this communication, someone is going to talk to these people.
naturally, that's how the political process works. But would you say, like, compared to the United States, is Brazil's society just as fractured in political groups, or is there a little bit more diversity or more cohesion? And I'm sorry that I'm asking about the United States, but it's the one American political system that I'm most familiar with. If you compare to that one, is Brazil more cohesive, more splintered? How should people imagine it?
Well, in this case, I believe that we have the same problem in Brazil and the United States. We have a division here, but you have to see that the division, the social problems that exist in the United States, they have 100 years. You have the racial question that's hard in the United States. It's very hard. So we don't have these problems in Brazil, Pascal. We have some kind of racism in Brazil. We have, but it's little. When you see the problems that there are in the United States, the problems of Brazil in this case are very little. But yes, we have a fractured society here. But I believe this case is artificial. I believe that if we had a president that could unite the country, we make great things. I hope this thing from Bolsonaro, but he did not have this capacity to unite the country. As I said for you, he did not have prepare structure, culture, and knowledge, and a lot of things. But he had to unite the country. So Lula, I don't know if he can do this. No, in this moment, not in this moment.
And how
We need some people to unite the country.
that's
Some,
the
some
that's the great dream of a lot of places, finally overcome the divisions and strive for a common future goal. But in terms of geopolitics, do you what do you think the current goal of the current Brazilian government is, Lula's left-wing government, of how Brazil's place in the world? What's the goal of interacting with the rest of BRICS? What's the goal of trying to interact also with the Europeans? How's the current government wanting to position Brazil?
Oh, I believe Lula is a man of the BRICS, but he has a lot of pressure on him. So he cannot do all the things that he wants. You have to see, and he remembers this, that Dilma Rousseff,
Hmm.
Dilma
Dilma
Rousseff,
Rousseff, yeah.
they down at Dilma in a coup. There was a coup in Brazil. There was a coup. It's the truth. Because she has a vision to integrate Brazil with a born in BRICS, and she wants an independence to Brazil. But I believe Dilma went very fast, so they downed her. And Lula knows this,
Who
and he
who
knows
who
that if
who are the
uh,
people who downed her?
the same elites of all times. Well, every time Brazil had a president that goes more to social, and who wanna reforms and was a progressist, they downed him. They downed Getúlio Vargas, suicide. They downed John Goulart in '64. We have a coup here. The government, the President Lyndon Johnson, United States, backed a military coup in Brazil. Every time you have a president that has a vision more progressist, the elites go and overthrow him. Uh, and the other presidents, they govern it with very difficult because the elites, they don't want to lose their privileges. They don't want to share nothing. The question, they don't want to share nothing.
So do you think that within South America, Brazil um, has to take a leadership role, or that these constraints that you're talking about, are they too heavy for Brazil also to start to like unite and inspire the other countries to join the BRICS or to go along more, something which certainly the United States is not a fan of?
Well, I believe that Brazil has a destiny that is to, I, I don't say to be a leader, but to show new ways to the other country and come together and go together to a bright destiny. But I don't know if this is the moment, Pascal. I believe we have ahead uh, a dark future for South America. I believe Trump is going to do a lot of pressure in all the countries, and we will have a lot of suffer here. But I believe in someday Brazil will share a great future with our neighbors. Brazil is not a country that has problems with his neighbors. We live very well with Argentina, Paraguay, Colombia, Venezuela, all day Bolivia, all day. We don't have problems. Brazil is very friend for his neighbors. In the future, I believe we have bright days, but not
In
now.
in in a way, like South America itself doesn't have a lot of interstate wars. Some of the largest ones are 150 years ago, the tripartite war against Paraguay. Um, there are no large wars happening among the countries. There's guerrilla warfare within them, and there are problems with drug cartels, and there are problems with I mean, the Sandinista problem that there was, but this has largely subsided. Why do you think it is that South America has less tensions than, let's say, the Europeans, or even especially like than the Europeans?
Well, I believe we are Latins. We have histories here, all kinds of history. A bright, sunny. It's a very good place to live, South America. It's very good. It's you have water, you have oil, you have gas, you have agriculture, and a lot of things. We don't have regions to go to war. But you said a very interesting thing. It's narco. It's narco trafficking. I believe the narco traffic is a way to exercise control in countries of South America. We will not have a huge narco traffic problem if there was not bank supporting them, great banks that support traffic of drugs, and secret service that give to them weapons and holds of drugs commerce. And so I believe that there are governments, and I will not say what is the country, there are governments that support narco traffic in South America to crush the development of these societies.
narco trafficking is quite it's quite interesting because also we've seen a couple of years ago there was this very famous Netflix series about the Colombian drug cartel in Medellin, Escobar, right? And that TV series almost elevated Escobar to a kind of a hero, kind of a dark hero, but a trickster hero. And my Colombian friends were all quite angry at this show, saying like, how dare the US kind of portraying a man like that in such a kind of fun way. Do you think that this kind of the public perception that is being fostered about South America is a problem? I mean, that's coming out of Hollywood, out of propaganda, out of the propaganda stream of the North.
Oh, I don't know to say to you because I'm not in Colombia. I don't know how they see Escobar. I don't know. But I believe that many Colombians can see him as a hero because he built houses and so and other goods in Medellin. But I don't know what's the cadre. But you have to see years ago, 40 years ago, there was an agent of DEA, Drugs Enforcement Agency, in Mexico, an American called Enrique Camarena, Kiki Camarena. He's the time show what he said. He was killed by drug traffickers. He was infiltrated in Mexico, and he was killed by traffickers. And so now, and Netflix shows this, that he discovered and CIA operations in Mexico that brings drugs from Colombia to the Contras of Nicaragua to sell, to change by weapons. Camarena discovered this scheme and CIA killed him. When you see this situation, CIA killed an American agent in Mexico. This is the problem is huge. And nobody in Brazil or Colombia or Mexico wants to investigate this. The liaison between trafficked drugs and Secret Service. But the case of Kiki Camarena, and Netflix shows this, is very emblematic. It's very
The
emblematic.
same
But I don't know what's the perception of the public about all these things.
At the same time, then, what we often hear from the US is that drug trafficking needs to be cracked down on. And there's politicians in the US who even suggest military interventions in order to crack down on drug trafficking. There was proposals for Mexico, but there was even more proposals about drug trafficking as a reason to invade Venezuela. After everything Venezuela is going through, and Venezuela is under horrible sanctions, and the US has tried to regime change Mr. Maduro several times. And just today, there's a new piece in the New York Times, again arguing for military intervention for humanitarian reasons. What do you make out of this rhetoric coming from the North?
Well, I believe if United States wants to finish the drug trafficking, is just to invade Wall Street. You put a lot of tanks and Marines go to Wall Street, and you will never see again drugs on the streets. Pascal, we know that Venezuela has the first oil reserve, the greatest oil reserves of the world. So United States doesn't want to peace, development, and liberty in Venezuela. They want the oil. They want a regime change in Venezuela because they want the Venezuelan oil. The same way they want a regime change in Iran, the same way they wanted a regime change in Iraq, and so they want to invade Venezuela because they want their oil. They are not interested in the liberty and the welfare of the Venezuelan society. But my fear as a Latin American, and above all, as a Brazilian, is to my country to be pushed to this problem. I hope Brazil stays away from the Venezuelan problem with the United States. They tried this. They tried this years ago
How
in the
can you
last
explain that?
Trump government.
Can you
Well,
explain that?
yes, I believe in 2018 or 2019, Trump government made a lot of pressures over Brazil to take actions against Venezuela in the government of Bolsonaro. But many people in Brazil demote this from this idea. It was a bad idea. It was circulating in the press in Brazil to do more pressures on Venezuela, but the things not go in front. But I believe this bad ideas can back with the second mandate of Trump.
So, but in a sense, do you think that the Brazilian government has a strong inclination to be like geopolitically neutral? So neither support Venezuela nor try to do the bidding of the United States to kind of stay away, stay in a neutral space?
Yes, in this government, I believe Lula has this politics and neutrality. I believe. But you have to see that as a democratic country, we will have elections in 2 years. I don't know who will be the next president. I don't know if Lula will stay in that chair. He's a man of center. He's very calm. I don't know, sensato. I don't know how to say in English. And I believe Lula will not make not of spectacular in this action. He will be trying to mediate all these things, but I don't know who will be in charge in 2 years. So
Yeah,
the
and
future is very uncertain.
Mr. Lula da Silva this year will turn 80. So there naturally there's an end to a political career. Is but his party, there are other. I mean, Dilma Rousseff was one of his disciples, right? So there are other people in the party who would follow a similar strategy, I suppose.
I don't know. I don't know. The question of succession in Brazil, who will be the next president, is a very is a taboo, because
Really?
Lula is a symbol. Lula is
Hmm.
a symbol. He has 40, almost 50 years of career, political presence in Brazilian life.
Right.
It will be very difficult to substitute him. Very difficult. Very. It's a great question. I don't know what will be in the next years. But Pascal, you have to see a very important question. Nobody's thinking about this. Trump will be in charge for 4 years. The Democratic will be back. Uh, Someday they will be back. And I ask for you, will they maintain the politics of Trump? I don't know. The problem of the United States is this. The problem is this. Trump has a vision of the world, a politics. You see with Iran, Trump get out of the nuclear treaty, the CPOA.
Mm.
Biden tried to be back to the CPOA. Okay, he did not
He didn't
achieve
go.
this, but he tried. So Trump is back again. What he will do with the CPOA? Iran is near the nuclear bomb. I believe that Iran can get the nuclear bomb when they want. I believe they have this technology, they have this capacity. But how Trump will manage this? I don't know. This is the problem of the American democracy. All things change in 4 years. You don't have a constance. It's not linear.
Yeah, but there are some forces below, like the neocon influence in the US, and making sure that, I mean, the question is where to do war. Do it in Europe or do it in Asia? So, but the question is not to do war.
They are
But
here all time. The newcomers are here all time, and they're all time.
unfortunately. But I would like to thank you very much, Commander Robinson, for your time and expertise. And also, we need to mention that your channel that used to be only in Portuguese, you've recently started an English language channel where you translate your content. Where can people find the English version of your channel? And what do you discuss
Well,
there?
Well, Pascal, I asked for you to put in the descriptions the
Mhm.
name of and the link of the war. It's Art of War. It's a military. It's a channel of analysis, geopolitical, military, and strategic, made by a professional vision. As I said to you, I worked in the Brazilian Navy for 2 decades, and in Brazilian Army for some years. So I have a reasonable experience in military affairs, and we try to bring this to the people in a simple language. Everyone can understand what we said. Until a children can watch and understand the military affairs that we are explaining to the people. And I want to thank to you, Andreas, for the job. And I can say for you, every time you want to talk to us, it will be a great pleasure to me.
Happy to do that again and talk to you again also about South American affairs. It's always great to have the local and a military perspective. Commander Robinson, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Pascal.